my YouTube channel, Stephen Sweeney recently asked if I played any alto. Stephen Sweeney, this is for you. Today I wanted to talk to you about effective practice. When I was younger, I used to practice many patterns, and I would practice them in all 12 keys. And when I stood up to improvise, a lot of the time I didn't know what to play other than exactly what I'd practiced verbatim, just playing these patterns and using them. And that was a good place to start, but I realized that that wasn't the end goal, and I wanted to be able to improvise more freely. I found that I needed to start practicing actually improvising in my practice sessions. So first thing, focus on rhythm. Choose a rhythm, specific rhythm. It could be a 4/4 rhythm, but often when playing 4/4, choose a 3/4 rhythm, 5/4 rhythm, 7/4 rhythm. Play the harmony of the tune, but keep the rhythm exact, and this forces you out of the habits that you have because you're playing this repeated rhythm over and over that doesn't line up with the harmonic rhythm of the tune. Very great for practicing improvising. Second thing would be to play specific notes per bar. Start by just playing 2 notes per bar, every bar. Any rhythm, you can hold the note as long as you want, but 2 specific notes per bar. Then go to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. After you get that, then do shapes. So groupings of 2, independent of bar lines. Groupings of 3, 4. Choose words that have syllables like Charlie Parker for 4. Phrases that have these specific syllables to think, and you can play them. They don't have to be just 8th notes, they could be any rhythm, but in these groupings. And someone listening to you may not have any idea that you're doing this. It's just a practice tool to be able to get you out of what you normally do. Third thing, turn off the play along. With those exercises I just talked about, use a play along. It's hard to keep track. That can help you. But for a lot of your practice, turn off the play along and just put a metronome on 2 and 4, or that clicks once at the beginning of the bar, and see if you can keep the time going and that you can hear the harmony going through the tune as you create melodies with just the metronome. It's really, really important to practice this way, to not just practice with the play along. After you get comfortable playing with the metronome, record yourself with the metronome, but also record yourself with the metronome turned off and see if you were able to keep the time fill as you create these melodic lines in your solos. Choose 2 bars of any Charlie Parker head and play that rhythm, specifically, just that rhythm. The notes will change depending on what tune you're playing to play through the harmony and make it work, but this again puts another parameter on what you're doing so that you can't just play what you've practiced over and over again. It forces you out of that. The next thing, play different rhythmic gears. So practice playing in 8th notes and then practice playing for a while with just triplet lines, only triplets for a while. After you get comfortable with that, practice switching in the middle of a line. Maybe you take a pattern that you know that you practice and start in 8th notes, go to triplets, go to 16ths, or vice versa, and changing those rhythmic gears that you're playing with and getting really fluent and comfortable doing so allows you to mix up what you're doing when you're improvising. Another thing that's really helpful, make flashcards for yourself that have different things on them. This is another Bergonzi thing. Playing in extreme registers, only using slap tongue. Pentatonic playing, voice leading, only thirds, only fourths, or other specific intervals. Playing a specific note of every chord or a specific pattern over each chord. Playing very understated, playing very aggressively, messing with timbre, vibrato, overtones. So you'd list a bunch of these things on a card, and when you're practicing over a tune, pull out one of these flashcards that has some of these specific parameters on it, and then try to play that tune with those parameters. It forces you out of what you normally do completely because you have something that's changing how you have to approach playing on that tune. And so it's interesting that by creating different parameters for yourself forces you to become more free of your habits and what you normally fall back into when you didn't have these parameters set, and just broadens what you're able to do and the expressive capability that you have to be able to use all these different techniques and different approaches in your improvisation. Also, when transcribing, try to figure out what's going on in the solo. It's super valuable just to be able to play along and match the player that you're listening to. Try to figure out what they're doing over the harmony so that you can apply it in different contexts and practice it in different ways. The subconscious is very essential when improvising, so getting that into you and into your ears, these different solos that you're learning, is really important, but then also using that material in different contexts that maybe you're practicing and trying to apply over a different tune in a different key is something that gives you more options when you're improvising and more freedom to be able to use those ideas. Many things that we say day to day with different people, there's a lot of repetition with the words and phrases that we use, but it can be organic. And when soloing, it has to be organic. It can't just sound like you're copy pasting these licks. It needs to start somewhere because of what's happening naturally and go somewhere, and that conversation is essential too. So playing with human beings as much as possible, a live rhythm section, hosting jams, going to jams, playing as many gigs as you can is really important in developing these skills of improvisation. And a lot of these things that I've talked about have to do with practicing improvising by using specific parameters, and a lot of them have to do with rhythm, because rhythm is the single most important musical element. Rhythm, melody, harmony. A lot of times in education, we teach the harmony in jazz education because it's easy to fix. If someone's not playing the changes, you can tell them and fix it. But helping a student play with expressive melodies and developing motivic ideas with rhythmic interest is a lot harder to do, but that's really what we need to be practicing and working on to be able to improve and get beyond just playing patterns. Of course, what we practice is going to come out in lots of different ways. You're going to hear it just like when we speak. There's a lot of repetition with what we've used before, but the way that it happens in an organic setting and situation is what makes the difference between something being great and really compelling and something just sounding kind of memorized and rote. And it's really the how and not the what that matters. You know, you hear people play like Brad Meldau, so many of these great players, and what they're playing, you transcribe it, and you might think, well, if someone else were to play that, it might seem kind of cheesy, but when they play it, you really feel something. And so a lot of that just comes down to it being natural and organic in the moment, that they're truly hearing that and then executing it based upon what came before. It's the how you're telling the story from beginning to end that really makes the difference. Hope you've enjoyed this video. A lot of these ideas come from Jerry Bergonzi, one of my teachers. I would highly recommend checking out his book, Melodic Rhythms. It has a bunch of these ideas and more in it that have really helped free me from just repeating what I practiced and actually taught me how to truly improvise. So I hope that's been helpful to you.